wash all the rocks. It's got sprayers running along the central axis here. It sprays like a car wash, so it's this way instead of spraying water down like this. And the reason why it's designed this way is most people in your hoppers that you see around here, they all have sprayers going into this on the sides. What happens is when the sprayer jets down and hits a rock, it ricochets back out. So now you're losing water. By having it set up in this half moon shape, the water stays contained in the deck. Okay? This shield also helps keep the water down because as this deck is vibrating, it's got a vibrator in here. As it's vibrating and it gets down to the sweet spot, the high point, it's going to really be shaking and throwing stuff all over the place. That's why we got the shield on there. Then it goes through the punch plate, onto the primary slick plate, then the secondary slick plate, and onto the sluice. So this is where your gold's going to collect. And then after that, the slurry from the sluice drops onto this dewatering deck. This is purely for, it's the first step in a recycling filtration process. So this is 150 mesh, 316 stainless steel screen that's epoxied onto a billet-shaped grating, and it's put on with 150 pounds of pressure, so that way each little square is drum tight, super, super tight. And so it separates the solids from the liquids down to 100 microns. And from there, the material actually, if you look at it, it's going uphill at 2 degrees, so it climbs uphill out of here, okay? And then the rest of the material, the rest of the water flows, the sieve flows into these sand filter buckets. These buckets have sand in them that do the filtering, preliminary filtering. And so this is what it looks like. It's just a bucket with a screen mesh and a decking sitting in there. That keeps everything above the holes, and so everything exits out the bottom and underneath. And so what happens, the material, the water with suspended particles will hit the sand will grab it, and then as it gets large enough, gets large enough, it'll actually turn into a goo and slowly slurry down the bottom of the bucket, ooze out the holes, while the water, most of the water exits out the upper half of the holes. So that way you're getting most of your clay and goo on the bottom of the tub. That's the key. And so as the water percolates up, instead of using crossover pipes like a lot of people do, that's a bad mistake, because the crossover pipe is sucking off the bottom or near the bottom and throwing it into the next tub. That doesn't work. That's why we have these spouts here on the top of the tub, so you're skimming just the top surface with the least amount, so it goes into the next part. After that, it flows from this half-inch sand here, quarter-inch sand here, goes into the pump tub. The pump, which is a Surumi pump, 3,400 gallons per hour, this is designed to run 24/7. It's not like your cheap Harbor Freight pump or something you get on Amazon. This thing here is commercially made. You'll see them on Gold Rush, actually, the bigger ones. So, and it will run quarter-inch sand all day long. That's how amazing this pump is. It's like $400 pump. Anyway, it goes up to the hydrocyclone. The hydrocyclone takes the water, spins around at a high speed, and causes all the smaller particles to push to the sidewalls and slide down the cone to the apex and spits it out the bottom. And inside there's another cyclone in the middle that goes up through the top, comes up over the angle, and goes up to our spray bar. So what it's doing is it's stripping all the last little particles out of the water to maintain the viscosity. So in other words, it's as low as possible. So that way your water is clean going into new material. If you're running dirty water into dirt, okay, now you're doubling the viscosity even more by the time it hits the sluice. And you want to keep it as liquid as possible to get that fine gold thread, okay? So that's just all this process. So you run 2 yards an hour. You can basically run this whole process all day long, no problem, and it just keeps recirculating water. It takes only 40 gallons to process a cubic yard, okay? So instead of using thousands of gallons to process, it's 40 gallons by recycling it. Yep. So 150 gallon in my tank back there will last me a weekend personally. Yeah. So, all right, so let's fire it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the dewatering deck first. It has 2 motors underneath here. The 2 motors are asynchronous. They're doing their own thing, but they're set up in a counter-rotating fashion. By doing that, it creates a force, which is a principle in physics called energy balance mechanism. And what it does is, because these motors are suspended on springs, they're floating in space. And so they see each other. So So as they're spinning, the weights synchronize, and it creates well, in this case, it creates a linear force this way. Okay, so all the other forces are neutralized except in this linear fashion, and because the motors are sitting at an angle, it creates that linear motion that's doing this. So at 2 millimeters, it's only moving 2 millimeters, and yet it causes all this stuff to march uphill and out and separate. So anyway,
did you design it?
Yes, it's designed, patented, and of course the gold Rattler is trademark. Plus the snake is the emblem for its trademark, just like Bucky's. I'll turn on that deck. Now nothing's really moving. You see that little piece of material just rolled off there. If I loosen this up a little bit, you can see the dirt rolling off. There we go. So it's climbing uphill. So now we're going to turn on the upper shaker deck, get it vibrating. And you put your hands up here. You can feel it vibrate. It's beating pretty good. This is made out of stainless steel, 304 stainless. It's 16 gauge. And the motor is not attached to the underside of the deck. The motor is floating under the deck and attached to the sides. What this does is allows the entire deck to create a flexure like this and creates this linear direction going down. So that way you don't have dead spots. If you bolted this motor to the deck, you would end up with a dead spot where the motor is bolted because it's attached. Okay, then everything up here is moving this direction, and so it's countering everything, and then everything flowing down this way is wildly flowing down this direction, and the other way. Here, it's even all the way down, so you have this nice, even flow. So that's what makes it work. So anyway, we do that. And now we're ready to turn the pump on, and so I have a regulator here that controls this, my bypass. So I have it set at 45 degrees, which is about the right water pressure to run the sprayers. Now, every once in a while, you'll have a Todd Hoffman moment where something will go, you know. So when I turn it on, I always watch to make sure my water hose is still okay. Okay, now we'll turn her on, get her going. There's our sprayers. Now come on here and take a look. You can see the vortex action going inside the sprayers. Take a look. So what it's doing is it's mixing the rock and material, spinning it around. Okay, so it's washing it. And when it gets down here, notice all the water jumping right here. This is the high point, that's where the studs are at. Okay? So then everything's flowing down the sluice, and then everything's flowing into the dewatering deck. We're not processing anything just at the moment, so it's not really doing, it's just the water's just going right through. So, and I brought some dirt with me, unless somebody wants to run some dirt from the pay dirt right next to me. Do it. You have to tell them? Well, yeah, you got to pay for it. But hey, if you want to run some dirt, we do a clean out and see what there's going there, you can. Who wants to run this? Anybody want to run this while we're standing? Who wants to run this? You want to say yours on mine. It's going to go like that? You want to do that? Yeah, sure. If you want to get one later on, we'll just do the demonstration here first. Okay. Anybody want to throw some dirt at it? Everybody's afraid of it? Okay, I'll do it myself. Watch this, it's going to get messy. Woo! There it goes. There goes the action on the sluice. And then look at that, dewatered right there.
Oh my God.
Boom.
That's awesome.
And then just slides right on out. So you can see down here all this gooey clay that's been dehydrated. It's still a little wet. Okay, make sure it's rough. Yep. And of course your upper rocks, whistle clean. Yeah, this is metamorphic rock, so they're a little black and brown. That's exactly what that is. That's exactly what that is. Yep. Yep. But you see, the cyclone is keeping the water clean, you know? Even though we got dirty water smelled out of here, it's keeping everything clean. Now when we're running more yardage, you know, then it's going to turn this a little brown, but you'll put your hand in here and you'll have nothing. It'll be just whistle clean. Yep. Yep. That's how it is. Yeah, so if you want to run a load, we can go through the whole process.